Hey all, it's Patrice here. I'm in a little bit early. We are starting up our connect with customers, with our community, with our family here that we do every Friday. And we are, Sister Sage just joined, hi, and we are doing this, we're restarting it up because, well, why not? We need to be talking to everybody. And we also, perfect timing, I feel, because it is International Women's Day coming up, and we want to be reaching out to our family. We have somebody joining us today who I absolutely adore. Her name is Lynn-Marie, and she is with Sister Sage. Now, I'm going to explain to you who Sister Sage is. I'm going to invite her, and we're going to start the conversation. And hey, babe.
Hi.
Am I sideways or are you sideways?
If I went sideways, could we just do that? Does that
I
work?
don't know.
How do you see
But
us?
does that mean that anybody who's watching has to watch us sideways?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're definitely sideways. Can somebody that's just joining us here can let us know that we are in fact freaking sideways? Okay, or I'm sideways. I wonder how I can do that. I'm just trying to set everything up here so that everything makes sense. Your hair is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Love those curls. I told you that yesterday, but gorgeous.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. I have been watching. Oh, wait, how does this? Is this going to turn? Wait a second. It might not turn. I might have to be sideways. No, wait. Let me see if I can fix this.
Now we're both sideways.
Now you're both.
I'm sideways. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so you were sideways? Oh my God.
Now we're both regular.
Sorry, now I'm. Thank you, Tina. This is hilarious. Oh my God. Where are you? Am I right set up now?
I'm right above me.
All right. Awesome. Let's see if I can figure this out. I got to figure this out somehow.
You can't see me, I feel like.
I can totally see you. You look fantastic. All right. Where are we going with this? Sorry, guys. You think I would have checked this beforehand, but I thought I was doing it the right way because they're always like, oh, you should always go sideways, but I didn't go sideways anyway. Hello. Okay. Lynn-Marie, would you like to tell people who you are a little bit? And then I want to get into talking about International Women's Day. And a thought I had around the difference between being nice versus being kind. This is something that I want to discuss with you because I think you do this really well.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I will get into it. So, hello, everyone. My name is Lynn-Marie Angus. I'm the owner of Sister Sage. If you don't know me, head on over to Sister Sage and follow. I am an Indigenous wellness brand, and what I do is I take my traditional and cultural knowledge and ingredients and create modern self-care and wellness products. So I make handmade soaps, salves, smokeless smudge sprays, and bath bombs. I am coming to you today from the unceded territories of the Kakite First Nations, now known as New Westminster. I am a member of the Gitga'ula Nation, Métis Nation, Nisga'a Nations, and Cree Nations. I was born and raised in East Vancouver, and I think that's a pretty good introduction for now.
Yeah. Do you have a particular community that you're associated with?
You mean my First Nations community?
Yeah. Like where your family's from or whatever.
That's a hard question because I identify with the four, but I think the most that I do identify with would be my Gitga'ula heritage, and that's coming from the Pacific Northwest of Canada, so BC, and a tiny little village called Gitga'ula, BC, and this is where my dad is from. And so this is, I think, where a lot of my history and knowledge comes from. But growing up as a young child out in Winnipeg, so we experienced our Métis and Cree culture out there. So I have like an amalgamation of the two.
Okay, that's awesome. And I feel like this is a really important conversations to be having, not only with each other, but with the world at large. about how important it is to talk about how we're individuals, that we come from different places and different experience. I am Anishinaabe. I come from Northwestern Ontario. I'm born and raised in Sioux Lookout, Ontario, but my First Nations community is Fort William. So I guess really the point that I'm trying to get around to this is that we are not Indigenous people, period. We are so multifaceted. Our experiences are so different. It's like saying the Black experience is just one experience, right? It comes from such a wide, we have, I think it's something like 600 different Indigenous languages in this country. Like, we are all so different. So even if you have like, when somebody says, oh, I have a Native friend, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you understand everything about what it is to be Indigenous. So this is, I feel like when we can talk about more about where we are and where we came from, that's going to help us all
I agree.
Be connected.
It's like identity is a hard topic right now, but locating yourself that's important. And I think you're right. Like, we're not a homogenous group of, Indigenous folk or Inuit. Like, my West Coast family is totally different from my Winnipeg family, and cultures are so separate and distinct, and the language and the food and our traditions and our stories are adapt. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like when I moved out to the West Coast, people like made the assumption that I would know, anything about West Coast culture, and I don't until I learn, which I am allowed to do. I'm not born with it. Thank you so much, Amber. We love you guys too. So I wanted to talk to you about, and you have in a number of different occasions in the past year spoken up publicly about things that bothered you, things that you saw as being incorrect, unjust, and deeply unfair to women in particular. And I have this, I'm so proud, like, you're amazing at it. You're so good and you speak so much from the heart. And I think that is where we as women need to go, to stop this idea that we have to be nice and make excuses for people and not rock the boat. I was saying, I watched that movie, Moxie, a couple days ago. Was it Wednesday? And this was the idea between keeping your head down and holding your head high. Like, we as women need to stop keeping our heads down, hold our head high, and hold people to account. So kindness, empathy, all of these things, absolutely. But this idea of being nice, I think, needs to go out the door.
I totally agree. I use my voice and my platform to speak out. And, it's not like it's a strategy or, to get followers. Like, this is like my true authentic self. And like, mama taught me right and told me what was wrong. And I use that and speak out. And you're right. It's about, the kindness and women being nice, because they're afraid of the repercussions if we do use our voice. And that's where I feel a huge responsibility in a positive way, that I want to use my voice for those who can't use their voice because they're too scared, or they may have some sort of repercussions or consequences for speaking out. Me, I don't care. I'm like, bring it. I'm ready.
Yeah. I mean, like, this idea of being nice, I think it's toxic for us as women. It keeps us from holding up the mirror to the people who are holding us down and being wrong about how they deal with people. So we need to find a way to get around that. What sort of advice would you give to people about using your voice and standing up not only for yourself but for others? Is it easier to stand up for other people than it is for yourself?
Great question. I think that maybe more often I'll advocate for other people than myself. And maybe that's just like, I don't know, something internalized. But I feel like some good advice would be get yourself an awesome mentor, because Patrice has been, for instance, when I went on a local radio show and called out the DJs, I made sure and called Patrice first, and Patrice was like, she made me do a mock interview, and I feel very, but it was so helpful. So I think, like getting your ducks in a row and not, it's great to lead from your authenticity, but don't lead only from your emotions. You have to put the work in, and you always have to know what you're about to debate or what you're standing up for. And I am a victim of that. I'm guilty of I'm assertive in maybe situations that I shouldn't be, but it's all, I'm like a river. I'm organic. I'm moving and I'm changing.
I'm the same way. Like, especially when I was younger, I would feel that a situation was wrong, but I couldn't necessarily articulate what it was specifically to the point where I could argue that point and have somebody understand my point. And so I think maybe, we should all be reading as much as we can about how we can have those conversations with people, because, facts do tend to have impact.
Definitely. Well. I want to mention also, the emotional, I really like this word burden, but the emotional toil that it takes on women or Indigenous women or, an oppressed group to be the ones to speak up and to advocate for ourselves. That's hard. It's an emotional weight that we shouldn't have to necessarily be the ones to bear. And so we do need allies who are knowledgeable and who know our plight also. And also I also want to say, for anybody else, do the research on your own, do your own education, because we shouldn't have to be the ones to educate you on racism or sexism.
It becomes exhausting.
It's exhausting. It falls to us to this labor.
I don't know if you know this or not, but for a while I was the news anchor at APTN. And I sometimes it was just, I couldn't even, it was hard not to cry on camera during the show sometimes, because it was just so heavy, right? Yeah. And I literally wouldn't even, after I left, I wouldn't even speak about that for a while, because I was just so tired. Yeah. I was so tired. So I think, if people can try and educate themselves and don't expect the burden to be on people of color, Blacks, Indigenous, whatever, then that's super important. And to also, have our backs. I remember one of the things about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, when people were speaking, they literally had other people with their hands on their backs, so that they didn't feel alone. And I feel if we can do that as women for each other, that would be really powerful. Maybe not physically, of course, not COVID, but you know what I mean.
Silence is violence. If you are just a bystander and you don't speak up, then I feel like you're in some way, you're an accomplice to letting these oppressive or violent situations happen. And so when you see racism, or you see just even micro racisms at the dinner table with your family, speak up and say something about it. Notice that a woman at work is being mistreated and you don't say something about it, then how, you have to say something about it, because maybe she feels in a situation where she feels she may be hurt or consequences, or
she is hurt. She internalizes that, right? This idea of speaking up for yourself and for others, I think, is paramount. I have Joanna Rose. It's easier to speak up for yourself when you have boundaries, are self-aware, and have the facts in place. It was interesting. I actually saw about that. Somebody today was saying on Instagram, somebody was complaining about how hard it was to put up boundaries. And then what she was saying was that it's hard not to have boundaries, and that life is hard, and you choose what your hardness is. Is it going to be the hardness of putting up boundaries, or the hardness of having to deal with life without boundaries? Definitely. Which I thought was really interesting.
That's deep. I think that, growth comes at the speed of discomfort. And so putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, such as creating boundaries, which is uncomfortable because you're like, hey, this is my limit, and that creates a discomfort between your interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing that, you can grow as a person and realize, like, this is what I can I accept. This is my threshold, and if you can't respect that, then kick rocks.
Kick rocks. I love it. And sometimes I feel like we turn away from the discomfort a lot. If we feel uncomfortable, we tend to look for a way out of it, to not feel it, to either through avoidance or booze or, whatever.
Or giving in.
Or just turning a blind eye, right? And what if it was okay to sit in that discomfort? Was it okay to feel it and go, yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm okay, right? It's kind of like that. I don't know if it's stoicism or something, but just this idea that, what's the worst scenario that can happen? Can you live with the worst scenario? Then you're okay.
This is like, sorry, my dog is barking. This is like
okay.
Exposure therapy, where you're sitting with your discomfort. I recently have experienced violence at the hands of men in my construction job, and that's what a huge catalyst for me to start Sister Sage. And so I had to do a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder therapy, like intensive stuff. And what our exposure therapy was to sit and remember and bring up the emotions, how much panic and anxiety that caused for me, but having that exposure back into me and learning that I can handle this and I can create techniques that will help me to deal with these uncomfortable situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about that when you told me the story about what had happened to you and how trapped, like we think about, you must have felt incredibly trapped, and that's really scary. And maybe if you want to tell the story really briefly about what had happened to you. I don't know if you want to or not, but
you know what, actually, Patrice, I did this therapy just so I could have that, for my own healing, but also so I can have the strength to share this story with other people, other women who may be experiencing a toxic work environment that they feel stuck in. And so, yeah, if you don't mind, I'll share it really quickly.
Yeah.
I worked in high-rise construction, and I had for many years, and I was experiencing a bully. And he was operating the man hoist, which essentially is like a metal elevator that goes up and down the outside of a high-rise building. I avoided him like the plague, but I needed to take the elevator one day. So I got in. It was actually Indigenous Peoples Day. So early in the morning, I had my braids in and my beads on, and I was so proud. Went into that elevator by myself, and he trapped me in there between floors. And he told me that he can keep me in there for as long as possible, because I wasn't listening to him, because I was like an upstart or something. And so I had a panic attack. A large white male trapped me in a metal box at work. And I screamed, I freaked out, and I left. And that was the last time I worked in construction. And this was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. It wasn't that long ago. And since then, yeah, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, PTSD, and I went through tons of therapy to get over it. But like I said, it was, at the beginning, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't bring it up. I was having nightmares, it was trauma, and I was crying, and it was hard to deal with. So now I really feel like I have that strength, and I'm able to share this story with people.
And I was watching a lot of movies lately, I think like everybody else. This just happened to you 2 years ago. So when people say, oh, what are you complaining about? Women have everything that men have. And no, it's apples and oranges, right? It's a totally different playing field. But I was watching 9 to 5, with Dolly Parton and Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. And it came out 40 years ago. This makes me feel super old because I remember it when it came out when I was a little kid. 40 years ago. And when the boss was out of the office, they made changes in the office. They gave people childcare. They let people work on their own hours. They hired diversity. Like, these are things that we are still working for 40 years later. Not things really changed that much since 9 to 5. Like, it's crazy.
I like that you pinpoint that as in history, in time. I love that movie too. I think that you're right. Like, we don't have equality. We don't have parity. Even again, back to construction boasted of a nationwide 4% inclusion rate for women. And I was like, I'm breaking these ceilings. And I couldn't break through because I was trapped. And so I really feel like sharing our stories and, doing Instagram lives with strong, powerful women is, showing that we're working towards this inclusion and parity and equality, and also giving a voice and power to other women who are out there watching.
And you know what? We are half the population, right? And of new homeowners, a vast majority of them are women. So we're talking about a lot of money and capital here that we can spend however we choose. So when you look at who you hire as your plumber, your electrician, somebody who comes in as a handy person, we can actually start hiring women in those positions and making it more accessible for people to go into trades as well. I remember myself having a tradesperson come in who was a locksmith, because I'd snapped the key off in my lock by accident. And he showed me how easy it was to break into my house, and then asked me out on a date. So it's scary for women to have men come into their homes like that. So, revolutionize the system, get more women in trades, and then we can have a safer environment for people who want to work and have jobs and hire people into their homes, right?
I agree. And women in trades is huge, and we need to be putting a lot of efforts into there, because that's where I came from. But also, because of that situation, that's what was the catalyst for me to create Sister Sage, and really essentially create a safe working environment for me and other women.
Talk to me about Sister Sage. Tell me tell me the history and everything with that, because you are a massive success. Your soaps are beautiful.
Thank you.
In my shower right now, I'm scrubbing myself with Sister Sage every day, or when I do get a chance to have a shower. Yeah.
Love it. Sister Sage, I think it was a long time. When I was in construction, I was like, I have to get out. I have to do something. But I was so doubtful. I was like, I don't know what to do. I have nothing to offer this world. And so my sister, she was at the moment, found herself pregnant and experiencing homelessness. And so both of us, I think we were experiencing crisis. We were in crisis. We needed to get out. And there was one particularly awful day when I was flagging at work, and a car full of men drove by and yelled some fairly obscene things at me. And that day, I turned around and cried. I was like, I gotta get out. I gotta get out of here. And I went to the Aboriginal Friendship Center, and I found a pamphlet on one of the tables that said community entrepreneur program starting tomorrow. I raced down to the UBC learning place downtown, and I was the last one to sign up. It was serendipitous. I was there right on time. It started the next day. And that was the beginning. So I learned a lot of business basics, real basics. It was about a 6 or 8 week program. And at the end of it, I had to give my first pitch, and I was terrified. So I had this a bottle, but it was just a crappy plastic bottle. And I was like, oh, it's the love spray. And bombs, and they loved it. And they gave me $200. They awarded me $200 for my pitch, and I took that to the supply shop, and that's when I really started. I started making soaps and bath bombs and the sprays and the salves. And my sister Melissa, she had 2 babies within 2 years, I think. So she had 202. So it was difficult for her to be part of the business. So I ran it out of my basement, and she would come, when she could. At first, we're like, we'll just bring the babies.
Mm-hmm.
We can't that because there was bath bomb, like,
Right.
dust.
Yeah.
And then, you know, COVID. I mean, there's so much I'm skipping, I feel like. You know, I went to, after that, I went to BCIT to take project management while at nighttime while I was still in construction. And then I was offered a spot, a full scholarship to UBC, the Aboriginal Business Management Program. So I did the BCIT, UBC, the construction job, and still trying to get Sister Sage started all at the same time. There was like no sleeping, there was hardly any eating, but I was determined. Like I knew to make this change. And so there were so many people that I met along the way, you included, and a lot of Indigenous women who really like took me under their wing and supported me and gave me advice and showed me how I can thrive in this business. And yeah, I feel like I'm skipping so much. There's so that's the real gist of it. And I've found that, you know, I've grown organically, and just being my authentic self has been really receptive. People have received it really well. And to that, you know, I'm happy, and I'm just excited to take this business even further.
I'm going to say, like, you were very inspirational. I love what you've done. I'm super happy. I'm very honored that you would say that I helped you in any way, but I'll be honest, like, you're a powerhouse, man, and you're going. I would also encourage anybody out there, you know, if you have a dream and you want to do something differently, take the first steps, take the small steps, you know, look, there are programs out there that might allow you, like Lynn-Marie, to go out there and just learn a little bit, you know, like it can be you. There is no reason why not? Because, you know, it's one of the things that I learned in my experience as a journalist is that these people that you might look up to and say, oh, you know, they've done so much, or they have this successful business, or they're running this country, or whatever else. They're just people exactly the same as you. And there is absolutely no reason why you cannot be that person as well.
100%. You know what? I was just like a sponge, and I just learned everything that I could. I podcasted, I YouTubed, I read books, and I talked to people. And I just threw myself into it. And like I said, growth comes at the speed of discomfort. And that's really what happened here. And now I'm finally starting to get help, and, you know, other women to help me out. So I'm not wearing all the caps in this business alone. Yeah. Also, Patrice, I wanted to congratulate you on your Indigo success.
Yeah, that's very new, but thank you very much. Yes, Satya is growing. You know, I wanted to say too, you know, if you don't feel like entrepreneurship is something for you, buy women-owned and from people of color, support communities, buy Sister Sage because her soaps are beautiful. And she's doing good things in the world. And we want more and more people like her out there in the business community trying to do good things. So I'm very glad that we finally got you here to chat on the show, whatever, the Instagram, the show, I guess, the show. And we'll have to have you back because you're just lovely. Very proud to know you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, and I really, really enjoyed this. Is it recorded? I want to go and watch it.
Yes, we record it, and I try to post it. Sometimes I screw up and hit the wrong button, and it goes nowhere. But yeah, we do try to have them so people can rewatch them as well.
My mom would love that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll do my best to hit the right button. Thank you so much for joining us, Lynn-Marie, and we'll be back again next Friday for more chats with amazing people. Yes.
I had one more thing.
Yes.
I was just nominated for 2 small business awards, and I posted it all over my Instagram, but I would love it if people could go and vote for me.
So go and check out Sister Sage, and there'll be a link there for you to go and vote for Lynn-Marie for that award. And I should also say, if you don't know about SheEO yet, you should. That is she as in SheEO.org. Is it .org or .world? I'm not sure. Anyway, check it out. There is a conference happening next week, and it's absolutely incredible. So, and it's free. So come and join because, yeah, it's incredible. Thanks again. We'll see you there. We'll see you there. All right. Bye. Now, how do I shut this down?